Okay, I guess this is ready. Okay, I guess we're starting now. Okay, so I'm gonna wait a second for some people to join here, but oh, this is a bad one. I have a decent amount to talk about in this one. This was a bad one. Engage your audience member. No, we're not putting that on, but oh my god. Yeah, the Panthers Buccaneers game is just ended. Like I said, I'm gonna wait a little bit for a couple guys to join. This was egregious. This was an awful game from a ref standpoint. And there's some other stuff that obviously you need to talk about. This was just a really rough game, all things considered. I mean, man, this. Look, I don't know what to say, because I haven't been this, pissed off watching a game in a while. This was a really bad one. Just the overall levels of just sort of failure on display from the officiating to specific Panthers players, not jumping on a fumble or something like that. This is a bad one. This was a pretty egregious game, all things considered. So, like I said, I'll wait a second before I fully dive into this. I'm just still trying to make sure I have everything I kind of want to talk about real quick. Over here. It's not what I meant to click on. What was I going to look up? Trying to remember what I was going to look up. NFL quarterback contracts. Yeah, that's what I was going to look up. So, NFL QB contracts. Pull that one up. Quarterback complete salaries. Yeah, I need to pull that one up. That's definitely an important one. Definitely need that one to be on there. YouTube updated some of their stream setting stuff. I'm not the biggest fan of some of the change they ended up doing. It's kind of bad, but so the Bryce Young, or not the Bryce Young, but the Panthers game. So let's just get right into it by first looking at this game overall. The final score ended up being 14-16, or 16-14. Tampa Bay ended up winning. Most of the points for Tampa Bay were scored in the first half. In fact, most of the points were scored in the first half, and it was pretty bad in terms of box score for the quote unquote casual box score enjoyers, right? Bryce Young ended up going 24 of 35 for 264 yards, 2 TDs to 1 really bad interception. Baker ended up going 16 of 22 for 203, had a touchdown, had a bad interception himself. His was worse, arguably, because of the fact that it ended up leading to a massive return, which obviously helped out Carolina. Rico Dowdle barely ended up hitting 10 yards rushing. It was a really poor game on the ground. Whereas Bucky Irving just could do basically whatever he wanted. Like, the 3.3 average doesn't really show how many good runs he had. And Cade Otton destroyed us today. Tedero McMillan was the best player in the Panthers by far today, like usual. He did have one sort of drop, I believe, but overall was great. He had another catch that we'll talk about later that got taken off. Did have the lost fumble, which obviously hurt, but he was still overall the best player on the team, at least on offense. Derek Brown, I mean, dude's a defensive tackle, having 13 total tackles. That's the most of either team. That doesn't show how good he is. I don't know what will. Fitzgerald did miss a kick. It was a longer one. It was more so during that rain, but still happened. McLaughlin ended up having a kick blocked, so that kind of hurt him. Bryce is just so inconsistent. Yeah. That's definitely something I'm going to talk about in a second. Now, in terms of this game, when you're looking at it, this is a big game. For those that don't know, if the Panthers win this game, they're in the playoffs for the first time since 2017. They win the division for the first time since 2015. Now, Tampa Bay needed this win to stay alive. Now, the funniest part is the Panthers can still end up making the playoffs despite losing back-to-back games to end the season, because if Atlanta wins tomorrow against the Saints, there will be a three-way tie for first in the division, and due to tiebreakers, the Panthers will actually win on tiebreaker and win the division. Meaning that they can legitimately fail upwards into winning the division title despite not being a real division-winning team, and being a team that in their own conference is not a top 7 team at all. I think everybody knows the Lions are better. Hell, even the Vikings look better than them right now despite their issues at quarterback. And then when you count the AFC, for how inept both teams have been at different points in the season, both AFC North teams are better than this team. There's a lot of teams that look better than the Panthers right now, and the Buccaneers, admittedly, yeah. How you doing the new year? Was better until about 20 minutes ago and overall, but was pulling for the Panthers. It's rough. I mean, it's just, oh my God. This was a rough one. This was a rough one, and I'm putting up the wrong thing. So, now, when you're looking at this, let's go to the play-by-play real quick to kind of show some of the stuff that ended up happening. You ended up having the interception, and the interception ended up getting the ball all the way to the 20-yard line. Right? It was a huge interception, which meant that Bryce had to do legitimately nothing to get a touchdown. See, the one thing that really sucks about this game is because of how this game went, the Bryce Young enthusiasts are going to have enough ammunition to say this wasn't on Bryce. And look, I'm going to be first to say this. This game was not lost on Bryce, but he played a big part of that. The stats do not show some of the ineptitude he had in this game because he did make a couple of big throws, mainly to Tyrone McMillan. So how much of that on Bryce, how much of that on Tet? You can argue that. But there was certain things that were bad. Again, his only touchdown drive, well, one of the only two, was when they literally got the ball 20 yards away from the end zone. And even the other one wasn't the most insane. It was a missed field goal, so again, they really didn't have to... Well, they did have to go far because it was a shorter kick that got blocked, but the point is, it wasn't like it was the most insane offensive performance by Bryce. And that leads us to this one, obviously, this play that ended up happening, where he, completely whiffed this one, all things considered, right? Where he just, oh, we gotta mute that. Where the ball is loose and he just doesn't go on the fumble at all for some reason. Like, you're seeing it right here. And instead of diving on the fumble, he, just pulls back, basically. Like, people are saying, like, oh, well, he was, trying to get it or something in, like, this weird way. And it's like, you're not supposed to do that as the quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, it was pretty egregious, all things considered. Let me make this a bit bigger. Like, it was pretty egregious, all things considered, that he ended up having that happen where he just didn't go after the ball, like, whatsoever. It was pretty bad. It really did suck to see. It's just, it was a rough one to see for sure. So that was a pretty bad one on Bryce right there. I started Bryce this week. Oof, that hurts. Well, it was being your first time being a Falcons fan. Not the first time. Cincinnati enjoyer, so I was a fan when Ritter was on the team, but I don't even know, because honestly, like, part of me doesn't even want the team to make the playoffs for the sole reason that means going to probably keep Bryce. Here's what I want to talk about Bryce. Let's look at his game log. This is just 2025. I can't pull up a career on here, but this is a good way to kind of view it. So this is the game log for Bryce. Bryce basically was healthy for all intents and purposes the whole season. Not fully, but he was. When you look at this overall season, what you'll notice first and foremost is, holy crap, this guy cannot throw the ball for more than 200 yards. He had one against the Cardinals, where he had over 300. He had the 448 game against Atlanta. He had 206 against the Rams and 266 today. Outside of that, he hasn't thrown over 200 yards. Now, what a lot of people will say is, oh, this is on Canals. This is on the play calling, right? But here's the thing. The team is winning more than they have in years. Canals was brought in specifically to win with Bryce. So if the only way for the team to win with Bryce is to not trust him, that kind of shows that Bryce might not be that guy. And again, the passer rating doesn't help him either. Pretty weak passer ratings across the season. Again, he'll basically have like a decent one like Dallas, where he ended up throwing 3 TDs to 1 interception. Great percentage. Very solid rating. Then he'll have a 48 in a win where he doesn't really play all that great but gets the win. And his QBR very similar. He's insanely inconsistent. And again, he's somebody that isn't the greatest overall. And if you go back to 2024, you'll see the same issue. 2024. Where's the 300-yard passing game? Oh, that's right. He didn't have one. He didn't have a single 300-yard passing game. Remember, this stretch right here, basically like after, the Germany game, or really after his benching, he was considered a top 5 quarterback in the league. Really? Really? Like, we're going to say that's top 5? Like, he had 3 games of over 100 passing yard rating. Like, he had some solid games, but I don't know, man. I'm not going to look at this and be like, that's insane. Then his rookie season is obviously his rookie season, but another egregiously bad season. Here's the thing I want to point out as well. Let's go to his stats. This should show the career stats. Yes, it does. Okay, so we got 8,000 career yards passing. We got 5.9 yards per attempt, 47 TDs, 29 interceptions for a pretty pedestrian 80.4 rating. Look at his stats against the Falcons, right? Against the Falcons, let me make sure it's showing it. Against the Falcons, this is where it gets pretty bad, all things considered, right? Against the Falcons, his career stats are averaging 226 yards per game, but it's mainly the amount of touchdowns to interceptions, where he's 7 TDs to 2 interceptions. He has a very solid 66.7 completion percentage, and especially this one game really just kind of exploded for him. Like, if you eliminate what he's done against Atlanta, his overall stats drop pretty drastically. 7-2 is almost a 4-to-1 TD interception ratio, which he is not averaging a 4-to-1 or 4-to-1 TD to interception ratio. So if you eliminate that, that puts him at 40 touchdowns to 27 interceptions. That's really bad. That's almost 3-to-2 exactly. Or not, well, That's almost 4-3, which is really bad. That's a terrible sort of average. His completion percentage dips a bunch as well. I have to do like legit math. I'm not going to do that. But if you average 66% across 5 games and you played 45, right? That's a ninth of your games, right? Wait, no, it's not a ninth. That's a tenth of your games. So a tenth. Well, I'm literally doing the wrong math. I'm doing it based on 50 when it's supposed to be 45. It's a ninth, like I first said. So in a ninth of your games, if you eliminate a ninth of your games, your average is going to go down a decent amount. So he's really only averaging like 59%, roughly, maybe 60. So his completion percentage isn't good because even 61.2 in today's NFL is not the most insane in the world. And again, his passer rating is a 95.3, so his passer rating drops as well if you include that. It's just like when you eliminate what he's done against the Falcons, especially the fact that 4 of his wins are against Atlanta, it just gets really bad. Because when you look at the games that he's won, it's not like he's won a lot of games. You know what I mean? When you look at the game log this year, this year he's had like the most wins he's had, and it's not even the most insane in the world. It's just really aggravating when you're seeing it, where it's like it's pretty clear he's not that guy. Yet you have the issue about the should he be paid sort of arguments, right? Now, when you look at this overall sort of quarterbacks being paid, right? When you look at the average per year, you'll see that a guy like Baker Mayfield is 33, Darnold 33, Matt Stafford 40 million. And hell, even some of these, like, I get this is a rookie, but Cam Ward is 12, Caleb Williams at 10, obviously again a rookie, but Justin Fields 20, like, Bryce Young should be paid like Justin Fields money, and he's not going to get paid Justin Fields money. The issue is Bryce is probably going to end up getting, if he gets a second contract, 35 to 45 mil, maybe even more, when he's not even worth 25. Like, legitimately, Justin Fields is not like the most insanely different quarterback. Like, Justin Fields. If we look up Justin Fields, right, and we look up his stats across this season for when he did play, because he was bad. You got to remember, he was bad this year. 62.7 completion percentage. That's actually better, if I'm not mistaken. This is also better. And this is surprisingly better. When you look at his game logs this season, you'll see that, he has a couple really egregious yards games. But when you compare it, oh man, I didn't realize it was this bad. Like, this is actually really bad. This is kind of showing that, like, he's legitimately Justin Fields, if not worse. When you look at them, 62.7, so they're almost identical in completion percentage. Almost identical. TD to interception ratio, Fields is significantly better. Passer rating, he's an 89.5 compared to an 87. Again, almost identical. Justin Fields took a lot more sacks. Granted, a lot of that was because of the Denver game and how bad the Jets' O-line is. It's so much worse, but still another status point or point to bring up. Average passing 6.2, average is 6.2, which is egregiously bad as well. And then rushing, he's got 217. He had 383 in the games he played. This isn't showing their fumbles. I do believe he had a decent amount of fumbles. Can I pull them up over here? Apparently, yes, I can. Okay, so fumbles. He had 2 fumbles and he lost 2 fumbles. Whereas Bryce this season, nope, not what I meant to click on. Bryce this season has 2 fumbles and lost 2. So when you actually look at it, he is identical to Justin Fields in so many stats. And here's the important thing to know, right? The whole argument with C.J. Stroud versus Bryce Young is, oh, C.J.'s had such a better team than Bryce. Carolina has a significantly better roster and offense than the Jets do. Do you know how much trash Justin Fields got early this year? The fact that Justin Fields legitimately is just as good, if not better when you account for the rushing, than Bryce Young this season is unfathomably damning to just how inept of a quarterback Bryce Young has been across the season. Because that's the thing. People try to act like, oh, it's everybody else's fault but Bryce, right? It's like the Jalen Hurts meme, like, oh, Kevin Patullo did it again, right? It's like that meme. Like, I saw somebody honestly suggest that first throw to Xavier Legette, the one where he, like, really, like, overthrew him, well, like, he underthrew him, like, you know what I mean? He was diving for the ball and barely could touch it. And they was like, oh, that was a beautiful throw by Bryce. No, it wasn't. And he's blaming Legette. If you're fully stretched out and you barely get one hand on the ball, that's on the quarterback. And he could have thrown a better ball, and it would have been closer. He didn't. And it's terrible. But the worst part overall is the fact that it's not even on Bryce for this game. Let's see. You have this play right here. This is egregious. Look at this. So, Baker throws the ball, and look. You got, let me go. This is Kate Otten, right? See him right here? Look at this. Look at that. Look at that. Look at what just happened. You see that? I got to replay to make sure you guys saw that. Look at this. Look at his foot. He hits his own damn foot and falls down. This was called defensive pass interference. We've got this one. We've got this one right here. This was considered an OPI. Let's watch this, right? Okay, so they're hand fighting some. You've got some here, right here. He's kind of pushing on him. Ted is pushing back on him, trying to give him the little stiff arm. But again, there was hand fighting. He exaggerates it. That gets called OPI. What? Either you don't throw a flag on either guy, it's offsetting penalties. It's that simple. And then we have this one as well. This was a no call, by the way. There's no penalty on this. Look at this. He rips his helmet off and throws it. There was no penalty thrown for that. All of these happened, and especially this one wiped out like a 30-yard reception by Ted McMillan. And so it's this egregiously bad overall officiating that has made it to where Bryce is essentially going to get away scot-free of doing anything wrong. Where nobody's going to remember the fact that he didn't jump on the fumble, because he didn't. Nobody's going to remember the fact that he really, really wasn't that good in this game because of the fact that the refs blew it. Because the refs did blow it. The refs absolutely sucked in this game. But to sit there and be like, oh, well, you know, that's the whole reason they lost. It's like, that's not a good enough reason. It's so aggravating. And the missed field goal obviously hurt the team, but didn't really end up being the end-all, be-all. Like, yes, you know, 3 points, but then if there wasn't the blocked field goal, it still would have been the same, you know, yada, yada, everything happens. It was a 54-yarder. Should have been closer. Things didn't happen. It was bad. So you had a lot of just overall sort of bad play across the game. It was just really bad. It's rough. Like, this was a rough game. And the worst part is that the Panthers still can make the playoffs. Because everything is, right, when you look at it, and I hit slash an accident. And it's now going to the Ask Google page. When you look at, like, NFL, right, when you look at the standings, because how everything is, the Panthers can still make the playoffs at 8-9 because of divisional record and all that. So the Panthers do end up making the playoffs. It's just going to give even more of a reason to potentially keep Bryce Young. The bottom line is, there's no reason to keep Bryce through 3 years. He has not shown you that he is that guy whatsoever. The fact that there are people suggesting that Bryce is showing that he could be like a Super Bowl quarterback is egregious. There's nothing that Bryce has done in the last 3 years that shows he's a Super Bowl quarterback. What, because he beat the Rams? That's like he's supposed to be it. The Rams just lost to the Falcons. Like, are we gonna really sit there? Like, let's talk about this. Oh man, we gotta talk about this one. This was egregious. This was egregious of a game. The Bryce Young 15-24, 163, 1 TD, took 1 sack. He did run the ball decently well for him. This was egregious. This was an inexcusable loss. Pretty much every other loss, for how bad some of them might be, you can at least excuse them or expect them, right? When you go to the beginning of the season and we see I forgot they actually lost this game. That was egregious. They should not have lost that one. This one, in hindsight, really wasn't that bad a loss. In hindsight, really wasn't that bad a loss. Was a bad loss, especially in hindsight because of how bad that Bills defense is. This one was expected. This one also was expected, but this is still inexcusable. And then you have this one. Like, you got to put it in this perspective. The last 4 games, for all intents and purposes, were must-wins. Like, they were essentially must-win games, the 4 of them. And they went 1-3 in that stretch. Because if they beat the Saints in this game, this one doesn't matter. If they beat the Seahawks, this game doesn't matter. Now, granted, if you beat the Saints, this game mattered less. Did they get the win? Questionable. But again, you only won because you were at home. And you beat the Falcons, and because of that, you're going to win the division. Bryce is absent-minded. Yeah, honestly, true. I loved when he didn't jump on the fumble. It's just like when you look at this and you see the fact that, you know, Bryce gets so defended because there's so many people defending him. It's like, dude, why is he so, like, glazed? And I think it comes down to the fact that, you know, you don't want to admit he's wrong because, you know, I got to pull it up. Bryce Young trade. I got to put up the trade. Let's see. This is the Reddit one. So, in the end, for the Bryce Young trade, the Bears got DJ Moore. I was about to block out my hand like that would do anything. Eliminate everybody below DJ Moore. Just DJ Moore. The trade is a win for the Bears. Legitimately. Just DJ Moore. The Bears won the trade. That's insane, but it's true. When you actually think about it, it's true. Just that alone. No stats of it. Dude, I swear ESPN site is so bad sometimes. When you look at him, right, 1,364, 966, and even though this is a down year, he had an incredible catch. DJ Moore, by himself, beats Bryce Young in the trade. If you add in Darnell Wright, Luther Burden, Torrey Taylor, Tyreek Stevenson, it gets even more egregious. And again, Caleb Williams. Look, I'll admit I've been wrong about Caleb Williams so far. I have. I'll admit that. I didn't think he was going to be insanely good in the NFL, but he's actually been pretty solid. But my God, this is bad. Like, this is potentially going to go down as one of the all-time worst trades. Because here's the thing. People acted like when this draft happened that Bryce Young was this clear-cut number one overall pick. When it comes to clear-cut number one overall picks, let's do number one overall picks NFL. I'm going to pull this up because I want to do this one right here. List of first overall picks. There's a reason I'm bringing this up, right? So let's look at the guys who were consensus number one overall picks. Cam Ward, Caleb Williams, supposedly Bryce Young, T-Law, Joe Burrow, I guess Kyler Murray was. Baker wasn't fully consensus. Jared Goff kind of was. Like, these ones not as much. But let's just start from, like, 2019, right? Let's just go to 2018 to make it easier, right? From this stretch, 2018 to 2025 has been one non-QB first overall. When you look at them coming out of college, this was the weakest one, arguably by far outside of Baker. Coming out of college, Baker was weaker. I don't think anyone else was. Because you got to remember, Cam Ward out of that year of Miami, that Miami defense was putrid and they were in so many games because of Cam Ward. That Alabama team, Bryce Young, like, that was a pretty weak Heisman win by Bryce Young. And when you actually watched him in college, he really wasn't that good. Like, if you actually watched him. The fact that he is put on the same pedestal in regards to draft, like, aura, I guess, as Caleb, T-Law, Burrow is just crazy. He has also been the worst because Cam Ward, obviously, it's his rookie year and he's on an abysmal team. So you can't really count him. But even Baker Mayfield, right? Baker Mayfield, for how much trash Cleveland did in 4 years, look at his stats compared to Bryce. Yeah, he threw a lot of interceptions, but he had, again, very similar passer rating, relatively similar completion percentage, actually, made the playoffs legitimately and had a great record, was about the same rushing-wise. And when you look at some of his stats overall, accolades, he actually has a long list of it. He was a Pro Bowl. Well, that was recent, but he was, considered for Rookie of the Year and all that. And then when you look at his stuff, there's supposedly an NFL record here. Oh, that's postseason pass rating. Okay, we're stretching there. But you understand what I'm saying, right? Like, Baker Mayfield, for how quote-unquote bad he was with the Browns, was still so much better. And that's only because, obviously, Browns fans are trying to gaslight themselves saying he wasn't all that. It's pretty bad. That is the worst. Or Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray has been pretty disappointing. Still a two-time Pro Bowler, Offensive Rookie of the Year. Really shouldn't have won that award, but that's against the point. Overall stats for Kyler Murray, when you look at him, almost a 4,000 passer his first 3 seasons. Bryce is nowhere near that. Much better yards per attempt overall in his career. 7 is much better than Bryce's, like 6.2. Completion percentage, significantly better by like 5 points. Much better passer rating. 2-to-1 TD interception ratio. Just, again, better. It's just better. If the Falcons don't win tomorrow, I'm wondering if the Panthers are ever going to win the South again. They should at some point, but definitely not this year. That trade was grisly. It definitely was. Doesn't matter. Everyone from the South is Caleb turned it around after rookie and Bryce still mid. Yeah, it's really bad for Bryce, the fact that this division is so bad and they still can't win it convincingly, for sure. I thought any team would even give you a third for Bryce. There's a lot. I agree. With how quarterbacks are valued, there probably is a team that give a third, and I mean like a singular third-round pick. I wouldn't be shocked about that. But again, that still says a lot about how bad he is. Or the UFL Real. Oh, man, this offense is so bad. The Panthers offense is so yikes. Like, it's just bad. Like, this trade, oh my God, it's so egregious when you're looking at this one. Luther Burden, let's see. Luther Burden, I believe he's had a pretty solid rookie year, all things considered. 617 yards. I mean, damn, that hurts. We really not going to let me click on any of these? Dude, this Google AI thing is, like, so mid. Seriously, you're not letting me click on that? Come on, man. Okay. I'm pretty sure Darnell Wright was a Pro Bowler this year, wasn't he? Darnell, let's see what Darnell was. Was Darnell a Pro Bowler? No, he wasn't. Okay, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he started all 48 games. It's just, oh my God, it's so egregious how bad that trade was. And Bryce Young got all of that for him. And I think that's the biggest issue for people, is people don't want to sort of trade him or admit that it was a failure. Because if you admit it as a failure, it just looks so unbelievably egregious. You know what I mean? Like, it's incredibly bad if you end up getting rid of him, because then it's like you really suck. But sometimes you have to, right? Sometimes you just have to admit you messed up and go from there. Because the worst thing that can happen is you get stuck with somebody you don't really want and you pay him a ton of money like Tua, right? Tua is currently on that like mega contract and he is just being ass for the Dolphins. You don't want that to happen to you. You don't want to pay a Kyler Murray all that money for him to, again, not be great or not be fully healthy. And I think that's the biggest issue for the Panthers. They don't want to admit that. And that's the question about what do you do with Canales, right? Canales did what you wanted. He won more games under Bryce. He made Bryce better, and the team still can't really win convincingly. And so it's like, what are you going to do then? Are you going to keep him or are you going to let him go? If you do keep him, are you going to give him 2 years or are you going to only give him 1? Because then you're in the same issue that many other teams, I mean, the Bears for a while were in that, where they would hire a coach to fix the quarterback. He would try to fix and couldn't do it. They would say, hey, the coach didn't have his quarterback. Let him draft a quarterback, then fire him a year later anyway, making it entirely pointless. Remember, when we hired Frank Reich, he clearly wanted C.J. Stroud, and we didn't draft him because David Tepper didn't want him. Because, yeah, let's listen to David Tepper, because he's a real football savant, that David Tepper fellow. Like, yeah, that's the guy I want to listen to for my football information. It's David Tepper, the guy who throws a drink at the fans, the guy who takes a dude's hat off for some reason. Like, what the hell? It's just, it does not make sense at all. Sub St. Brown Pod, it's so egregious that this season, and again, the worst part is, I genuinely believe we're going to be in the playoffs. The only way it doesn't happen is if the season is so cooked that when you expect the cooked thing to happen, it doesn't. Because the Panthers are losing this, then still making it because the Falcons win is just so unexpected 3 weeks ago, but so expected now it might not happen. I think it's going to happen. And it's going to be hilarious watching this team make the playoffs. And God forbid we win a playoff game. It's going to, oh my God, the amount of hype Bryce is going to get is going to be insane. Like, Bryce Young has become that tier of player, like Brock Purdy to an extent now, but mainly Herbert like 2 years ago, or Jalen Hurts now, where it's everybody else's fault, right? Like, before this year, whenever Herbert would play badly, it was everybody else's fault. This year, there's actual reasoning, but before this, people would be like, oh man, Herbert is so bad, or is so good, it's just his offense sucks when he's not playing well. Like when he blew the lead against the Jacksonville, you know, they forget the fact that the only reason they had that many points was because of the amount of turnovers the defense got up, meaning that 30 points lead that they had, that was really made by the defense. Herbert basically did nothing in that game, and then he ended up costing them the game, and everybody blamed the defense. Really? It's the defense's fault that Herbert couldn't score when the defense wasn't giving him the ball at the 30-yard line? Again, that's a couple years ago. Brock Purdy arguably is to that point where if he does play poorly, it's not his fault, even though I still stand by the fact that, again, we saw this issue with Mac Jones. Purdy is a good quarterback. He is nowhere near elite, but a bunch of Niners fans will try to gaslight you into believing he's elite. And then Jalen Hurts. Hurts could literally do nothing in a half, which he's done twice, and will get zero blame for it. It's insane. And Bryce Young is becoming that, where I'm even seeing people defending him not jumping on the fumble today. I am seeing people saying, it's actually not Bryce's fault. He thought he was going to grab the ball and keep running. If that was the case, that's even worse. Like, let me say that again. If that is the case, it's actually worse. Because if he did, in fact, do that to get the ball and keep running, it's worse. Because while it wasn't raining, it had rained, obviously, so the ball was wet. So the likelihood of him getting of fumbling the ball again or getting rocked or both are extremely high. So even if he was trying to grab the ball and run, it actually looks worse for him. The fact that he didn't dive on the fumble is egregious. Again, bro's literally cosplaying his Cam right there in the Super Bowl. And this is the biggest game the team has had since that Super Bowl. Well, technically since the Saints game in 2017. But you know what I'm saying. And he didn't jump on the fumble. It's just bad. Bryce is super annoying if he plays super good one or twice a year, and then it's like, I might crack. As a Lions fan, sucks that we aren't in the playoff season. Yeah, especially because this team or the Buccaneers are making it. Like, neither of these two teams deserve to make it for sure. trade the farm for bro. Oh God, no. He'll then bitch and moan about, I need my receivers, and then he'll complain about like, it's not having fun anymore. It's like, dude, your defense sucks because you demanded they kept all your receivers. Like, look, I'm a Joe Burrow enjoyer, but damn, bro, you're the biggest reason that defense is cooked. You're the one who basically forced them to keep both Higgins and Chase and spend all that money on them to where they had no money in the defense, and that caused Hendrickson to bitch and moan because they didn't want to give him a full-time contract, and then in the end, they kind of were vindicted, or not vindicted, they were vindicated when he ended up getting hurt anyway. That's another topic for another day. We Carolina QBs with not jumping at fumbles. Yeah, true. It's bad. Like, Bryce Young, like, here's the worst part, right? I'm pretty sure NFL betting odds. Yep, that's what I wanted to see. Let's go to the odds real quick, because I believe Tyrone McMillan is still the offensive rookie of the year favorite. By the way, this is insane. I'm just going to say this right now. Just a little off topic before I continue. The fact that this is only 10,000 is crazy. McCaffrey it's a long shot because he needs like 110 yards, but he could have another 1,000 season, do it tonight, and get the 1 seed. If he does that, it's pretty hard to say that he's not MVP over Drake May, who's had relatively an average season, and Stafford, who has had a great season outside of 2 awful games against the NFC South. Like, I would have this arguably being my number 1, number 2, number 3 in MVP power rankings. That's a different story. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Tyrone McMillan is pretty much the favorite. Even if Shuck wins, he does not deserve Rookie of the Year. He has not played nearly enough to be even eligible for this award. It is insane. If he wins it, it literally invalidates this award for the next decade. Like, Tyler Shuck winning the Offensive Rookie of the Year this year completely invalidates the award for 10 years. Like, it's one thing when, like, Saquon didn't get MVP last year when he really should have. It's another thing when, like, a guy playing half a season gets Offensive Rookie of the Year. Carson Schwarzenegger, literally no one talks about him, but he's been the favorite for the whole year. Going to keep getting it. OPOY. Again, arguably should be McCaffrey, especially with, depending how tonight goes, is a good argument. Pretty much, I think whoever wins this game gets Offensive Player of the Year. I really do believe that. Whoever wins the division gets it, so we'll see tonight. Lamau might not even break the record, still is going to win it. Coach of the Year, really close. Again, there's a lot of guys you can definitely argue should get it. I mean, Vrabel had the turnaround, but Shanahan dealt with the injuries. So, and then coming player of the year is McCaffrey. Phillip Rivers was second place at one. But yeah, McCaffrey, he's going to win it. McCaffrey legitimately could get 3 awards, which would be insane, but he really could. I think the biggest reason why he's not the favorite for OPOY is because I think a lot of people expect that they're going to only vote him for comeback player of the year. And that honestly probably hurts his MVP case. Because like you got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 awards. Minus coach is, 6 awards. Minus the 2 defense is 4. Minus the rookie is 3. So he could win all 3 awards that like he is legitimately eligible for, which would just be really just not good television. But again, another little topic. Great year, but needs to be much more aggressive. Bulk up. We need a good edge so bad and tight end. Like, look, the Tyrone McMillan pick, I'm glad it aged well because I was still pissed off we didn't take Tyler Warren specifically because of how much I hate just having the same 3 mediocre tight ends every single year. But we definitely need a legit tight end one. We need a Greg Olsen type of tight end, and we need some defense. Because that's the thing that I think a lot of people... Like, I've seen people blame Gio Evero for this season whenever they lose games. Like, the defense has not been able to be the focal point the way it should because of Bryce. Because we're using so many picks on offense. We're using so much money on offense to make the offense better. And yet, the offense has been marginally improving. Whereas when you look at our team, like, our best player is Derek Brown. Our second best player is arguably J.C. Horn. And it's just like, so if our best players are on defense, and historically our defense, why are we focusing on offense all of a sudden, right? When we don't have a quarterback. And I don't necessarily disagree with that, because I think that it is a good idea to build a roster and then plug in a quarterback. It's worked for many teams in the past. But it's just not great. Yeah, I agree. Gio Evero, especially when he was with Denver, had a really solid year that year where he was the defensive coordinator for Denver. And it's just, I think people, again, they just want to blame everybody but Bryce. They don't want to admit that Bryce Young is not that guy. I mean, it's something that was clear before the draft happened, but, people didn't want to admit it. And it was, again, clear and obvious then. It's clear and obvious now that he isn't that guy. If Bryce was that guy, he would have won one of these 4 games. Again, I'm not saying he needed to go perfect, but when you look at this schedule and you lost 3 of these 4 games. That is egregious. That is unbelievably terrible. Because look, if you had told me when I did my Panthers video they would have won some of these games, I would have suggested they would have legitimately had like 10 or 11 wins. The fact that they got swept by the Saints is insane. You got swept by the Saints. You beat the Rams but lose to the Niners and Seahawks. And now, again, in hindsight, that Cardinals loss looks awful. It's just bad. And again, people talk about, oh, well, they can beat any team any given week, right? The only really good team they beat was the Rams. The Packers are not a great team. Even then, I said it literally week 1, before week 1, I said that Packers team was unbelievably overrated and overhyped. And it has aged like a fine wine, that take. Right? Not every take I've had has aged well, but man, that one did. So when you look at their schedule, legitimately good teams. The Jaguars, they got bodied. The Patriots, holy crap. The Bills aren't even a fully great team because they have no run defense. We got annihilated. The Niners, we got beat by 11, and this was a more injury-riddled Niners team. The Seahawks got bodied. Like, people saying, like, oh, they can beat anybody because the Packers, like, dude, us beating the Packers doesn't mean anything, right? The Rams is the only legit win we've had, and even that win has aged poorly because of the fact that they lost to the Falcons. And it ages even worse when you consider the fact that we didn't beat the Rams beat themselves. They threw multiple back-breaking interceptions, or Stafford threw multiple back-breaking interceptions, and still nearly pulled off the win. So the idea that people are going to sit there and be like, oh, the Panthers could literally go on a run and win the Super Bowl or win multiple playoff games, based on what? On the fact that we can't beat good teams? Because we can't. Again, that has been proven this season. Proven that we cannot win big games this year. Like, let's look at this Rams game, right? The big win. Look at the box score, okay? We've got 2 interceptions by Stafford that were really bad, and they lost the fumble. They had 3 turnovers. Bryce didn't throw one. So we won the turnover battle based on interceptions and fumbles, 3-0. Yet we only won by a field goal? Like, I don't know if you realize how bad that is. When you really think about that, that's really bad. You're +3 in the turnover margin, and you only win by a field goal. Like, that's the thing I think a lot of people don't fully understand about the Rams and their sort of collapse in the end of the season, is a lot of their games, they blew. Like, the Rams not making mistakes are the best team in football. The issue is that they have those times where Stafford just, plays like Sam Darnold in the playoffs and throws a couple bad interceptions. And then that's what really hampers them. Because against the Falcons, they looked so bad early in that game and they managed to just come right back and nearly won it. And it's bad. Even better than my own. It's so bad. Like, the amount of the worst part is, obviously I'm in NC. I listen to local sports talk shows. And I listen to these guys trying to hype up Bryce Young. Trying to hype up Bryce as being this great quarterback. Or this guy that's proving he should be in a 5th-year option. He should be that guy. And it's like, based on what? Like, because he, only lost by 11 to the Rams? Because he only lost to the Saints twice by a combined 13 and not 20? Like, he went 0-2 against Tyler Shuck, okay? And we're supposed to sit here and say that's our guy? And, quarterbacks aren't a win stat. Yeah, but whenever the team wins, everybody likes to loves to circle jerk each other and act like Bryce is the best quarterback since Cam Newton. And it's like, dude, no, he's not. Like, he's not even better than Cam Newton when he came back to the team. The I'm back with the Cardinals. It's so bad. You know what I just realized? I just realized something, guys. I got to go to wide receiver real quick. There's one guy that can make you more upset about the Panthers than Bryce Young or David Tepper. It's this guy right here. This motherfucker, Xavier Legette. I got to search something up for you guys because I don't think a lot of you might remember this. Let me scroll down here to pull this up. The Panthers traded a 5th-round pick and their 2nd to move up 1 spot to draft him. This was a guy considered so good. They also got the 200th pick. Considered so good that he needed to be traded up for. The only thing that has benefited this team is look who got picked at the 2nd round. we're having a laugh. There it is. Is the guy who was picked 33rd overall, Keon Coleman, who himself hasn't been all that great. Because I'm pretty sure, isn't Keon Coleman the one that Cam Newton did the whole thing about, like, it's okay for rookies, but you're our number one. And he talking about like that. That's the only reason that pick is not aged super terribly. 141. The 141st overall pick has been this guy, the center, who has actually started a game for the team. Who's just kind of been on the roster, it looks like. As a rookie, appeared in 16 games, started in 1. So again, not the worst. Like, the Panthers benefited a lot from the fact the Bills didn't necessarily, like, super make away with it. But, like, even this, Jaden Crumity, he's only had 13 total tackles and a half sack. So, like, this is a trade that overall seemingly been, like, a complete disaster for both teams. But the fact we traded up for him is just so bad. Because, like, when you look at his stats, right? Let's go to his career stats real quick. He has 838 yards as a first-round pick receiver. He has 7 total touchdowns. He's just not that guy. Like, he just is not that guy. It's bad. When you watch him play, there's so many times he just drops passes. Like, yes, like I said, there was the one that it wasn't his fault. Bryce completely whiffed him. But there's so many times where he'll just drop these. Like, when you have a 2-to-1 reception to targets, or targets to receptions, like, look, a lot of targets aren't really targets. They're like, oh, you were in the vicinity of it. But holy crap, you have almost a 2-to-1 target to reception. You know how bad that is? Like, that's egregiously bad. Let me look this up. Let me make sure I'm not just gaslighting myself into believing he's even worse than he should be. Let's look at the guy who's never dropped, like, any passes in his career, essentially. Look at Larry Fitzgerald, right? I'm not seeing 2-to-1. I'm seeing, like, 3-to-2, right? I'm seeing, like, about 2/3 of the time he's catching the ball. 54-72, 75-109. You know, legitimately well over 50% of the targets he's catching. Again, targets are a very kind of weird stat. Leggett, it's like 2-to-1. Xavier Leggett. Can I find the drop rate and all that? Okay, PFF, everybody's favorite site. I'm not. Xavier Leggett. Average, blah, 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 blah. Season stats. They're going to show targets, receiving. Yeah, even this is different. View and premium. Drops, 8th and drops. 1 drop, sure. We're going to just laugh at that. He's just bad. His route, it's just, Leggett has not been good this year. Or last year. And it's just so bad. It's so bad when you look at him and you watch him play and you realize, like, damn, like, we traded up for this guy. And again, we didn't need to. We traded up 1 spot to a team that was already drafting a receiver. Like, that's the worst part. The trade was pointless for both teams. The odds that they were going to get Leggett are astronomically low, just like we were going to take Coleman. So in the end, both teams made a trade. They both got receivers that have not lived up to their hype whatsoever. And it's just like, dude, really? Again, we traded up for him. We had no reason to trade up for him, and we did it. He's a first-round pick, meaning he's going to have different expectations. It's just really bad. And again, the whole thing was, oh, you know, he's fun. He has this funny stuff, right? He talks with that super, super, like, Southern accent. It's just bad. 2 games of over 40 yards. 2. Wasn't 83 and wasn't 92. There were 2 really good games, and they both had a touchdown. So outside of his 2 40-plus yard receiving games, he had 1 touchdown, won 2 games at 30 receiving yards, and a bunch of games where he had less than 30. Holy crap. I mean, oh my God. That's bad. That's bad. When you look at Ted McMillan, as a comparison, who is a legitimate rookie, who we really drafted high, actually has lived up to the hype. When you look at his game log, no, let me just look at his stats. And he has more receiving yards already. He didn't get the 1,000. Wait, is this counting today? I believe it is, right? 85 receiving yards. I believe it's counting that. I would imagine it is. If not, he did hit it. I don't know. I know, like, I don't remember exactly how this one counts and all that. Game log, it is counting it. So he did finish without getting the 1,000 yards, but he finished with 929 receiving yards. And again, when you look at him, let's see, that's 1 game above 40, 2 games above 43, 4. He had 5 straight games above 40 yards receiving to start his career. Xavier Legette in his sophomore year had 2. You can't make that shit up. Let's see, another 1, 2, 3, 4 game streak. Again, Legette couldn't even have 3 in a season. So when you put it in that perspective, it's like, wow. And I know some people are going to say, oh, well, it's 2 receivers, it's that whole thing. So, you've seen other teams like Rashid Shaheed and JSN have both had great games together ever since that trade. You've seen Puka have great games with other receivers. In fact, usually it helps you out. If you have one really, really good number 1 receiver, it means that the number 2 receiver is going to either not be double teamed or is going to have a lesser cornerback or safety covering them. So it actually makes it easier to throw to them. Meaning that if they can't dominate against who they're being covered by, they suck. You know what I mean? So it's like, damn, you're bad. And so when you put it in that perspective, well, it's just bad. It's rough. It ain't good. It is not good, and that's the whole issue with the Panthers. But again, it might not matter because of this game. Because at the end of the day, it all matters to this one. It is all up to this game. The winner determines the NFC South champion. The Saints are going to be cheering for, the Buccaneers are cheering for the Saints, and the Panthers are cheering for the Falcons. Which also means this. I forgot to mention this. Because of everything that's happened now, it officially means, that whoever wins the division has a losing record. So we're getting another losing record team, and once again, it's from the NFC South, because this has happened before. Obviously, the Panthers themselves made it at 7-8-1 before. So this is going to be the second time the Panthers might make the playoffs with a losing record, which is hysterical. But again, and if Atlanta wins, obviously it's a 3-way tie for first. Panthers win, it's just pathetic, and it's just rough. It's just bad. This game means more for the playoffs in a technical sense than every other game outside of Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Put that in perspective. Because this determines a playoff team. And it's by 2 teams that have essentially nothing to play for. Because here's the bottom line, right? The craziest part is both these teams actually want to win. The Saints have already ruined their tank to the point where they're just trying to see how good is Tyler Shuck fully. So they're going to want him to actually play. As for the Falcons, they don't have their first-round pick. They want to make that pick as bad as possible for the Rams. So they want to win for that reason. So you have 2 teams in Week 18 that have both nothing to play for and actually are going to be playing to try and win. So it's as egregious as can physically be possible. And let's look at the Tankathon. I looked up the wrong one just to bring this up as well. The one thing that is good is depending on how some of these other games goes, the Panthers could end up getting a top 15 pick for whatever that's worth. I don't really think it's worth a ton. But depending on how certain games go, they can. In fact, I think they can actually move up a bit. I don't know. I don't remember exactly how tiebreaker works with these ones. But they could get a top 15 pick if certain things go their way, I believe, which is okay, I guess. Again, if they win, they move up to 19. Again, the Saints kind of screwed themselves in the draft order. Obviously, the Raiders won the Super Tank Bowl. The Jets actually, I believe, hold tiebreaker over the Giants for the number 1 overall pick. I believe. Don't quote me on that one. It's basically these 3 teams are competing for the number 1 overall pick. Lamau, also Lamau. And yeah, the Saints literally have nothing to play for. The worst that can happen to them is they move down, 2 spots, maybe 3. Which obviously would suck, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Them losing only guarantees them, the 8th pick, which isn't the biggest deal because there's no 5-win team right now. Whereas the Falcons, them winning puts them at 8 and 9, meaning that depending on how these games go, they can really tank that Rams draft pick, which is what they want to see. Especially because the Rams do have another first-round pick, because you got to remember, let's say Stafford retires. If this pick was, a 5th overall pick, which it could have been if the Falcons continued losing earlier in the season, the Rams could have literally gotten rid of their 24th or whatever pick and traded up without giving up that much in all honesty, and then would have been quarterback. So they outplayed it, but yeah. Bryce did okay, but the refs are red game. No one wants the Panthers in the playoffs. I never complained on the refs, but that one was garbage. Bryce was still sharp. Bryce did okay, but the refs were rigging like crazy. We beat y'all. Now I need the Saints to win tomorrow. Oh, we go into the playoffs and we finna get smashed, baby. Oh, please, yes, we did. We are 8 and 9. We are back at first place, about to be division champs. We'll win this again. The Buccaneers definitely did not really earn that win, obviously, because of the ref ball. It was just egregious with, again, the tech play. this was the worst. Like, this one I understand is the one most people are being pissed off about. This is the one that was the worst. Hold up, this is the wrong one. I don't even think I mentioned this play. I didn't even mention this one. So, this is the second time in like 2 weeks where the refs blew a play dead and just changed the ending. If a play is blown dead, it is supposed to be blown dead, right? It means at that moment, the play's gone. And this is the second time where they have blown a play dead that should have been blown dead, and they just changed the ending, right? In the Rams Seahawks, the Rams essentially got hosed the first, well, not fully hosed, but pretty much fully hosed from having the number 1 seed because the refs just gave a 2-point conversion to Seattle. The play was blown dead. Charbonnet just picked up a dead ball, and they were like, 2-point conversion. What? And they did the same thing here. This was called an incomplete pass. It clearly wasn't, but it was a fumble. And they just changed it to being like, we're going to call it a fumble, and we're going to cost you 6 yards, and it's still second down, even though they're supposed to replay it. Egregious ref ball. Like, egregious bad ref ball for sure. It sucks, but it is what it is. Team much. I mean, it's just bad. It was bad. Yeah, the refs were bad. Like, there's no real defending it in this specific game. Like, the refs were egregiously bad. I mean, you want to talk... I mean, it's not like it's one bad play, because, like, this was a 30-yard pass, and, like, when you were... Okay, we're just going to have a laugh, Twitter. But when you're watching this, like, this is clear hand fighting by both guys. 21 exaggerates it a bit, and they're like, OPI. And, again, that's not even the worst one. The worst was when K. Dotton literally tripped on himself, and they called it PI, which was insane, and the fact that this was a no penalty. I mean, the dude literally ripped off his helmet and got no flag for it. And the fact that this all came like back to back to back to back was just really bad. But they're not bad. Yeah, both these teams should get crushed in the first round, but honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if one of them ends up winning. The way the season's going, I would not be shocked for the Bucs or Panthers somehow winning the first round. The only difference is it's not like the Eagles team that few years ago where the Eagles were like super ass heading into the playoffs, and then Tampa Bay was like actually playing well. And they were just like, yeah, team that's actually playing well versus a Eagles team that's literally just imploding. And the Tampa Bay just crushed them. Like, they're going against one of the 3 NFC West teams, which if you're the Panthers or the Buccaneers, you're hoping it's the Rams, because the Rams are most likely to play down to competition. If you play the Niners or Seahawks, yeah, the Panthers or Buccaneers are probably getting beat by 20. But if it's the Rams, they've got a shot. Just because of how the Rams have played, there's a real shot that ends up happening. We'll have to wait and see about that one. That game's currently at like 0-0 right now, the Seahawks, Niners. But it was a pretty bad one. Like, this is one of those games that kind of showed, like, yes, there was the rain. That's another big talking point, is that there was obviously rain for the first half, and then like the fourth quarter there was rain. So it's like you can't fully judge how both teams played, but both teams looked bad. The fact that Tampa Bay had to rely on the refs to win was bad. The fact that the Panthers again, like, 2 things can be true. One thing can be true. Bryce pulled a Cam Newton and didn't dive on the fumble. That's egregious on him. And it's also true. That's a stupid-ass play call. Why are you doing a flea flicker in that scenario? It's one of those games where it's like everything worked together to where Tampa had a truly undeserved and unwarranted win. Carolina still didn't play good and lost. It makes Tampa's win almost meaningless in terms of like a morale booster. It makes it hard to judge just how much faith you have in Bryce Young. Like, this game legitimately was the worst outcome for both teams. It does almost nothing good for either team because at the end of the day, because of this scenario, neither team even controls their own destiny. Because now it's up to the Rams-Falcons. Or not the Rams, the Saints. So it ends up just hurting both teams, right? The Buccaneers are closer to potentially keeping Todd Bowles when it's like, why should you? The Panthers now are in a scenario where it's like, you can't really blame Bryce for the loss, even though he didn't play good. So then it's like, it's harder to be like, yeah, let's get rid of him, or yeah, let's keep him because of how this game worked out. So it just puts this like state of flux for both teams. And then if you do make the playoffs, it doesn't feel fully deserved because you only got in because of tiebreakers and because of the Saints-Falcons. It's such an egregious way to end the season for both teams. It really was the worst scenario. Add in the rain, it just makes it to where it's a game that neither fan base is really going to be able to look in the mirror and be like, we lost that or we won that. Instead, it's like, man, this just looks bad for both teams. Like, all it is it's like Oklahoma-Bama, where it was clear from the get-go that neither one of these two teams are even remotely a national championship contender. They're nowhere near that. But one of them has to win. And then you know they're going to get their ass handed to them against Indiana, right? Teams of the bye are 1-7 in the CFP, and the only loss is Bama, because that was such an obvious pity game where neither team really should have been a playoff team because it was so clear they didn't have a shot to win the title. And they just had to be in it, and you knew they were going to lose. This game's a lot like that, right? Oklahoma had a massive lead. It made Bama look really bad. They allowed that to happen to them again because it happened to them a few weeks prior. It looked bad for Oklahoma because they blew the lead and ended up losing. And so both teams ended up walking out of that game being like, man, we suck. And then guess what? You got proven true that you did suck, because now people are going to do revisionist history. You're going to put JM fucking U above Bama because they at least put up points against Oregon, whereas Bama got annihilated by an Indiana team that was the only first-round bye team in the history of the 12-team format to win a playoff team or playoff game. It's just, oh my God, it's so bad. This is a bad one. This is such a bad game. Like, this is one where just watching it, it's like, what am I watching? I mean, it was rough. This is a rough watch. Like, just watching the game, this was rough. This sucked to watch in a lot of ways. It's just bad. Okay, why am I getting a thing from 53 minutes ago? Twitter, are we having a laugh? Oh, so we're going to get any new updates. I was going to see what updates I had. Is there anything new? Buccaneers win. Oh, my God, it's so bad. Yeah, and we got the Whalers playing right now, so at least there's that. But, yeah, bunch of stuff. Photo duty, blah, 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 blah. Don't care. Search is something trending is like... Panthers are number one in trending over Venezuela. That is hysterical. It's probably just going to be a bunch of, ref ball, more ref ball, some more, talking about the Saints-Falcons. I'm shocked that you don't have the play of Bryce not jumping on the fumble, because that's going to be everywhere. But yeah, that's the NFC South. It's just as TMC is saying. It's ass. It's a bad division. It's been bad for a couple of years. All things considered, it's basically been like one solid team and then the rest of the division. So yeah. I mean, unless there's something else to talk about the Panthers game, I think that's pretty much it. Again, it's just go Falcons. It's egregious knowing that one of these two teams is going to be in place. I will say this. Actually, yes, there's one more thing I want to talk about. If any of you have an issue of a group of 5 team getting an automatic bid in the college football playoff, you have to admit that the NFL needs to change their format. Because I saw so many people 3 weeks ago pounding the desk that the NFL, the 14 best teams make the playoffs. Meanwhile, you're going to have a shitty AFC North team and a shitty NFC South team both make the playoffs above other teams that have actually been on win streaks or actually have something called talent on their football rosters. Even with the injuries, the fact that the Buccaneers or Panthers are making the playoffs above a team like the Lions, again, for how bad Max Brosmer looked, even the Vikings look better than both these two teams. Hell, if the Saints win tomorrow, I fully buy into the fact that the Saints are the best team in the division, because they would have basically pummeled the division, all things considered. And then the AFC side of things, like, look, the AFC this year has actually been relatively, like, it's been pretty weak. But damn, the fact that the Steelers or Ravens are going to make it is pretty bad. But, like, people were so upset about JMU and Tulane making the college football playoffs, despite the fact they actually won their conferences, something that, Miami couldn't do. I say that as Miami is going through the playoffs, but you know what I mean? It's like, dude, if you win your division or you win your conference, you get rewarded for it, right? Panthers or Buccaneers are going to win their division while not really being a good team, either one of them, and they're going to host a playoff game, which, again, because of how much some people, the SEC, bitched and moaned, they changed that format for the CFP just because of that. And in the end, the same thing happened that happened last year. So maybe the NFL needs to follow suit and it be purely based on, seeding, so that way the NFC West hosts the entire playoffs, basically, right? Because, hey, college football didn't, college football has a traditional kickoff, which the NFL doesn't. F them kids, I guess. Who cares if they get concussions? It's just bad. It's rough. Man, this football season, the fact that Indiana, Oregon, Miami, or that other team that is in the play, Ole Miss, are the Final Four is insane. Indiana is insane. Even Miami, it's wild that's your Final Four for college football. But the NFL, even that one is pretty wild because the AFC right now, if you were a betting man, you should be putting your money in Jacksonville and Houston, because it's you compare them to New England or Denver, and it's playoff experience versus non-playoff experience, incredible defenses versus solid offense. It's wild. It's a wild season, but we'll see. I guess we'll probably end the stream now unless somebody else has any sort of big talking point. In terms of overall news stuff, again, we should be having the UFL quarterback draft, or not draft, but selection next Monday or Tuesday. So expect a video on that. Obviously, the UFL players in the NFL. Currently, I believe I have it scheduled for next Friday. I can actually check while I'm here. Dashboard, content. I have it scheduled for currently on Thursday, but that might change, for the ranking all 8 UFL head coaches heading into the 2026 season. So make sure you're around for that. It's going to be a banger video like always every year. So again, we have a lot of that stuff, going to be coming out soon. Might do a playoff stream. I don't know for sure. I might not. I kind of don't know. We'll kind of see what I decide to do. You know what I mean? Jelly bean is the whole joke. I don't know. But we'll see. It'll be interesting. Again, overall, it's just final thoughts before I fully officially end the stream. If you did enjoy the stream, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video as well. Goal is 1,500 subscribers by the end of the year. I will have my State of the Channel video out sometime this month. But in terms of final thoughts, game really bad for both teams. It does almost nothing good for either team because of the fact that the Buccaneers won basically by ref ball, the fact that Bryce didn't look awful but still didn't look good, didn't jump on the fumble and all that. It makes it to where neither team is really going to feel confident in anything after this week. The fact that you're going to have to rely on the Saints or Falcons is hysterical, especially since that's the biggest rivalry in the division is those two teams, and now you've got the other two teams in the division, readying their fighters, hoping that they can win. It's just hysterical. Maybe we'll see the, Bills, Andy Dalton thing that happened a few years ago where let's say Big Kirko gets the win for the Falcons and you have a bunch of, Panthers fans donating money to something like that. We'll see. But yeah, it's pretty rough. Bryce Young, through 3 years, which is a long time in the NFL, not really, but it's been 3 years, has not shown at all that he deserves a true second contract unless he takes a true, legitimate, small $20 million per year contract. Because the idea of him being paid $30 million and being paid the same tier as Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, who made a couple incredible plays in that game, is insane. So that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this mini-ish stream, solid hour, not a long one. And as always, guys, have a great night.